These were the best-selling cars of 2025. But the real story isn't the list, it's why they dominated. The numbers are in, and these are the top 10 selling vehicles of 2025. Let's count them down. Number 10, America's favorite small pickup, the Toyota Tacoma, with over 274,000 units sold. Number 9, the most popular all-electric vehicle in the country, the Tesla Model Y, with about 300,000 estimated sold. Number 8, the last standing sedan in the top 10, the Toyota Camry, with more than 316,000 units sold. Number 7, some sources say 275,000, others say 330. Either way, it's in the top 10, the Chevy Equinox. Number 6, the first full-size truck in this countdown, the GMC Sierra, stepping in with over 356,000 units sold. Number 5, strong sales but still chasing the top 2, the Ram pickup, with over 374,000 trucks sold. Number 4, holding a firm spot in the top 10, the Honda CR-V, with more than 403,000 units sold. Number 3, the most popular SUV in America, the Toyota RAV4, with an amazing 279,000 plus sold. Number 2, putting up a serious fight, the Chevy Silverado, with 558,000 plus sold. And number 1, the best-selling vehicle in America for more than 40 years straight, the Ford F-Series, with over 828,000 units sold. 5 of the top 10 are trucks. Now here's the real question. How different would this list look without commercial fleet sales? What do you think? Do you see these every day? And what do you drive? And that is just some of the BS. It's not just popularity, there are actually reasons why these cars did so well in 2025. Now let's break down what actually drives these numbers. I've got some notes that I put together, and kind of from a high level, I'll discuss why I believe these cars are on the list based on data and my perspective. And then I'll talk a little bit about the future, because there were quite a few comments that touched on what this might mean for the future of the best-selling cars in the United States. Starting with the Toyota Tacoma, number 10 on the list here, this is the most popular midsize pickup truck in the United States and perhaps in the world. The reputation is really one of the biggest reasons it's been so successful year after year. It's got a reputation for reliability, capability, fuel efficiency, especially with the new hybrid options, and then off-road worthiness. So it has a TRD Pro and a Trail Hunter, which are in a sense the halo trucks of the Tacoma lineup. And what that does is, if you've watched any of my other videos, I have another one on the TRX, and that halo truck, or that really like the truck that everybody dreams they have, right? This beautiful, amazing super truck in a sense, is really nice for manufacturers, because whether or not you buy that version, they've painted with a wide brush over the other ones to imply that they're all, in a sense, very capable or advanced or fast vehicles. And so that kind of plays into some of the sales you'll see here as well. One of the biggest things that you'll notice is that most of the vehicles on this list, the Tacoma included, have a wide variety of trim packages. And this provides opportunities for people, again, to kind of enter at the entry-level point of perhaps a work truck for a Tacoma, all the way up to those halo trucks of the TRD Pro and the Trail Hunter. So what they did this last year that really drove things was a redesign. The most recent redesign had significant impact on Tacoma sales and profitability for Toyota, because in selling the previous generation, they did extremely well. And as soon as a new model's introduced, they kind of have to discount those old ones to get them out, even though they're great trucks to begin with, just to get this new model online. So a big part of it is the advancements that they made, both in design and technology. And so that being like the 360 camera, trail cameras, the large 14-inch touchscreen, as well as the hybrid options. That really was a big shift for efficiency and what Toyota's really investing in for the future of their products. Outside of that, I would say, like from my personal opinion, Toyota does not disappoint their buyers. They know their market and they hold on to it pretty well. And one of the examples that I think of there is, if you're familiar with the off-road or overlanding group of people, the Tacoma really stands out in that group, and they have a strong hold on that group, and that segment isn't going anywhere for Toyota right now. Moving on to number 9, the Toyota Camry. This is the last sedan in the top 10, And there are a couple reasons for this, and I'll get into that as I get to some of the other vehicles. But the reason the Camry has been top selling for so many years is really the reliability and reputation that Toyota has. And then with the Camry, they've gone all hybrid now. So efficiency, fuel efficiency is huge here. And this is the most fuel efficient vehicle in the lineup. So of the top 10, the average fuel economy when combined for the Toyota Camry reaches an estimated 51 miles per gallon. And so very fuel efficient for something that can fit 5 people rather comfortably. And they did start offering all-wheel drive, which makes it a little more competitive against the CUVs and SUVs that have really begun to dominate, but it still gives them some of the strengths that those have, all-wheel drive more specifically, so that some people prefer to stay with the more fuel-efficient sedan and get the benefits of all-wheel drive. I don't see this leaving the top 10 for quite a while. As I mentioned with the Tacoma, lots of trim options, and so you can go all the way to from cloth seats to heated and ventilated seats. In the Camrys, there are quite a few options. For the Tesla Model Y, number 8, this is the top-selling electric vehicle, and I believe there are multiple reasons behind this. They've got good range, strong charging network, and honestly, you can see that with all the other manufacturers piggybacking now off of that port or that charge port connection for all their electric vehicles too. And the advanced technology that Tesla uses, such as the self-driving capabilities, really appeal to a wide audience. And Tesla's leaning into that. They're getting into the cyber taxi or the robo-taxi, whatever they're going to end up naming it. I think they do have a name out there, but maybe I'll overlay it if I can find it real quick. But really, the versatility and practicality of a CUV. So a crossover utility vehicle is a CUV. And it's kind of a hybrid between a sedan and an SUV. It's where they kind of meet. So a little more ground clearance than a sedan, a little more cargo capacity because they're generally a hatchback, or have more of an SUV kind of shape to them. But they're still unibody, lower to the ground than a traditional SUV, smaller tires, making them more efficient as well. So the price point with this is a big deal too. What they've been able to do pricing-wise is keep this Model Y competitive with other perhaps luxury CUVs that they're trying to compete with. And so by keeping the price point where it is, they've been very effective. The other options that really help this stand out, like other CUVs, is the all-wheel drive, cargo capacity, and then the efficiency that you get with a CUV over a traditional full-size SUV. In my opinion, there is something to be noted here. This is a decline year over year. So their sales did go down for 2025 versus 2024. With that said, they're still strong, and that's why they're in the top 10. Tesla also offers some historical evidence and relevance that other electric car manufacturers may not have. Lucid and Rivian, they haven't been around as long, and so that does have a negative impact on their ability to really market to people or word of mouth. More people own a Tesla, so more people talk about owning a Tesla. And then the charging network is a huge selling point for Tesla. Getting in on that early made a significant impact on their ability to sell their cars. One of the facts that I found here this is kind of cool. This is the fastest vehicle in the top 10 as well, with a 0 to 60 of 3 to 3.5, depending on variants that you choose, but very fast option. And again, the fastest on this list. Number 7, the Chevy Equinox. This one surprised me. I didn't expect to see this on the list, but after looking into it a little bit more, I can see why. So they did do a redesign, and this was a big deal. In this redesign, it became more efficient, more sporty, and a little more attractive. And so what that did is it took the Equinox from where it was sitting before in the teens and in the 20s into the top 10 because it has new design, greater efficiency, and it comes in at a lower price point than the competitors. So you'll see later on in this list, this is the cheapest SUV on this list. That was really helpful for them. The other things that I would note is Car and Driver called this out as a major 2025 winner for the new gen. So they expected this to do well, and it did. So I think it's clear that Chevy did a good job in that redesign and engineering to bring that Equinox into the top 10. Whether it will stay there is a different story. Going on to number 6, the GMC Sierra. So this is the first full-size pickup in this lineup, and it's nearly identical to the Chevy Silverado. They are on the same platform, and you'll notice that a lot of the points to be made are very similar across the two. It does have more of a premium image from a retail perspective, not necessarily in commercial or fleet sales, but for individual sales. The Denali packages give it that kind of appeal to a more luxurious audience. And I don't think that they consolidate their products for a reason. So one of the comments, and I saw this multiple times, and it's something I questioned in the years past, is if you combine GMC Sierra sales with the Chevy Silverado sales, it outsells Ford. It outsells the F-Series. Now, some people might say, well, then that should count. And to some instance it does. GM sells more pickup trucks than Ford. With that said, I think the reason they don't combine it, because I think there are some smart people there. There's no way they don't have anybody analyzing these numbers. I bet they believe, this is my perspective, they believe or have done calculations to determine if they combine the products, their sales volume would decrease and they would be giving up sales to other manufacturers. So they'd rather split it between GM products and still have these highly profitable trucks, and again, give the GMC kind of a premium feel versus the Chevy Silverado, when in all honesty, the Chevy Silverado High Country and all these other luxury models do line up well with the Denali. So it becomes more of a preference thing there. But one of the big things that I'll mention with all the trucks is they combined all of the trucks in their lineup that have that nameplate. So for example, the GMC Sierra is not just a 1500, a 2500, or a 3500, it is all of them. And so they combine all those sales together. And that was something a lot of people brought up, but it is very clear the manufacturer does combine sales for all the tiers of that product line. And so you will see that the sales volume of trucks is generally high. And I brought this up in the short as well, because of commercial sales. Now, it's not the only reason, because trucks are very popular. They're generally more safe than a sedan if you're in an accident. They're more capable in many ways. They're more comfortable because they're larger and you have more space. They are not more efficient. They've gotten more efficient. The trucks have really improved fuel efficiency, but not to the point that I would say that that's why, people are buying them. Efficiency is not the reason people are purchasing this, but improved efficiency does support the sales growth that they've seen. One of the last things I'd say here is their competitive styling, tech, and refresh happen to be just enough to keep it relevant. And I bring that up because of this next one. The number 5 top selling is the Ram pickup. Now, this fits within that same full-size category, the 1500s all the way to 3500s and so on. As long as they have the Ram pickup badging, they qualify as part of that sales number. And so they do have broad configurations, much like the other products I've talked about, where you can go from a work level truck that has just basic cloth. I think everybody's on power windows now, but some more basic materials and instruments inside, all the way up to these high-end luxury options like the TRX that's got leather and suede and a lot of different soft touch features within the truck, and some more advanced technologies, things like adaptive cruise, lane centering, and so on, and even hands-off driving. And so those are some of the reasons that these are popular, that trucks in general, but again, the Ram. But it's notable that Ram suffers from holding on to their design a little too long, in my opinion. Now, I think the reason for that is it's done well for them. I think that the design does look good, but it's starting to look dated because they've held on to it as long as they have. Now, there are minor changes. Any Ram fan out there is going to tell you, oh, they changed the hood, they changed the headlights, they changed the grille. There really are quite a few things, but the silhouette of the Ram pickup hasn't changed in over a decade. And it shows. And that's also part of what you're seeing in these sales numbers here, is they haven't innovated enough, but they have introduced some really cool trucks. Like I said, the TRX, the RHO have been high performance trucks that are very good sellers, and halo trucks that help paint, again, the whole lineup as a more capable, aggressive, high performance product. And I think that is very smart, but they are in third place for a reason. And while that doesn't sound amazing, one of the things I will point out is that the data shows that they doubled the sales of the next non-Detroit based pickup. These trucks are far behind Ram still. So Ram is doing a good job. Being number 5 in the top 10, that's a big deal. And being number 3 in the pickup arena is also a really big deal. So I wouldn't downplay that. And I really think that they've done a good job with the interiors of their trucks. They've pushed more for high tech, and that has helped sales. The larger displays, like I said, some of the adaptive cruise and things like that, lane centering, have supported their sales, but the design is getting stale. And then one of the biggest things I would say from my experience when I recently reviewed the Ram 1500 Bighorn is their engines are pretty impressive. More specifically, or the one that I'm most impressed with is the Hurricane engine. So they were kind of pushing out the Hemi, which they're bringing back now. But that Hurricane engine was more efficient and providing more power than what they got out of the previous generation Hemi. But people miss the V8. People love their V8s in trucks. And with that said, I was extremely impressed with that Hurricane engine. And maybe it's because my standards were low or I didn't have high expectations. I don't know what my expectations were really, but it did outperform what I expected. And so that was impressive to see that in the Ram pickup. Now, number 4 is the Honda CR-V. So this is a very safe choice, is kind of the way I looked at it. It's got a history of reliability, good fuel economy, and now they're offering hybrids, much like the RAV4, that improve that fuel efficiency even more. So they've got a good reputation, an efficient product, and like many of the CUVs and SUVs, this falling under the SUV category, it's efficient both in fuel and in its function. So for example, you can fit a lot of content or cargo inside this and individuals comfortably, and the footprint for parking is similar to that of a sedan. So it really is a step up for most people, which is why one of the reasons we're seeing a lot of people leaning into CUVs and SUVs in this top 10 versus the lone standing sedan. In fact, that sedan, the Camry, is one of the only ones remaining in the market that has a notable impact. The other close competitor is the Honda Accord, and then we do have things like the Corolla, which does really well, especially internationally. The Corolla line is huge. So, but going back into the Honda CR-V, it is an all-around very capable vehicle because of the all-wheel drive, because of the cargo capacity and the fuel efficiency. It really corners the market well. And with that said, the next one does it even better, which is to say that's why it's number 3. But Kelley Blue Book did name this the 2025 Compact SUV Best Buy. So they really do see this as a good product. And I would say, I really do think Honda stands out in terms of reliability and more of a sporty design, perhaps. But I know sometimes they hold on to their designs for a little too long. But I would say in the last decade, I've actually been impressed with the rate at which they do their mid-model refreshes or redesigns to kind of keep things relevant. And I think they've done a good job. But one of the big things I want to note is one of the data points that I was able to pull is that Honda notes that 54% of their sales for the Honda CR-V were the hybrid. So they've seen great success with the hybrid. But that's still to say nearly half of them were traditional gas engines. With that said, it makes you wonder if that's just because it was an option or it was what was on the lot or it was cheaper, or if people really do want these hybrid options and they just weren't available perhaps. But seeing 54%, I'm sure Honda will see an improvement or increase in the percentage of sales of hybrid versus non-hybrid drivetrains. One of the last things that I'll mention, I refer to this as like the generator concept. The Honda CR-V and the RAV4, which is number 3 I'll jump into, are the ones that people are often comparing their product to. So I'll give the example that I was looking for a generator for camping, and every time I looked at another manufacturer's generator, they were always comparing it to the Honda. And I thought that was interesting. And you'll see that with some of these other manufacturers. They compare themselves to really what most people perceive to be the best product out there. And so you do see that with the Honda CR-V and number 3, the Toyota RAV4. You see that they've cornered this market in such a way, again, with similar sizes, good fuel efficiency, and product variety. So the different trim levels available and hybrid options and non-hybrid really do improve the options for buyers out there. So reliability, same with the CR-V. The RAV4 has very good reliability. In fact, it scores very high on Consumer Reports reliability, the brand as a whole. But one of the biggest things I would say is that it's both the best selling SUV and the highest ranked in terms of reliability from Consumer Reports. So Toyota has done some great things with this product, and there's a reason it's number 3, because again, SUVs, CUVs have become more and more popular because they're very functional. They fit well in compact environments in a large city, and they also work well for people out in the boonies or that have to travel quite a bit. Because of that fuel efficiency and cargo capacity, there's a lot that they can do with it. It's just a step up from a sedan with minor losses in fuel efficiency. And it really is becoming more and more negligible, that fuel efficiency difference, but it's still something to note for sure. One of the biggest things I think that helped the RAV4 in this last year as well is that redesign. It has become more sporty, which is appealing to a broader audience. I think historically the RAV4 has struggled to give you that aesthetic that it is sporty, but reliability is what they were riding on for so long, quality. But now they've kind of stepped up their game to be a little more aesthetically pleasing or attractive. So great product. And I do see this product continuing to be in the top 10 for a while. Now, number 2, and I mentioned this in my video for 2014 and 2024 and 2025, is that Chevy is right behind Ford. Now, again, they're quite a bit, by over 100,000 units, well over 100,000 units, hundreds of thousands of units behind Ford. But if you combine all of the GM products, so this GMC Sierra and the Chevy Silverado, those do outperform the Ford F-Series. But specifically with the GM products being separated, the Silverado comes in at number 2. Now, one of the things that I'll note, and I'll emphasize this with all the pickup trucks as I kind of touched on before, there's not only huge retail demand for end users, but commercial demand is a large part of why pickup trucks dominate, absolutely dominate the top 10. Now, that said, I did see some critiques, people making their jokes and poking fun at different manufacturers for being more or less reliable, and talking about the volume of vehicles that they're selling because they don't do well, so people have to buy another one. But there's some irony to that. Why would you buy a product that failed you before? So I would say that most of these pickup trucks are maintaining a reputation of capability and reliability to maintain these kinds of sales. Otherwise, we would see companies like Toyota really stepping up their game in competition for commercial sales, but we're not seeing anywhere near the commercial sales for Toyota that we see for the big 3. So anyone who has looked at the product offering for Chevy Silverado knows that it does come with a different design from the GMC products, the Sierra, but they're similar enough that people know they're from the same family. The last one of the facts that I have here is they have the lowest starting price of any of the pickups in the Chevy Silverado lineup. So that does help them to maintain this position in the top 3 in terms of pickup trucks. Now, number 1, and as I said in the video, it's been number 1 for over 45 years now. It's been the number 1 selling truck for that long and the number 1 selling vehicle for well over 20, maybe over 30 years now. They have huge retail demand. So the average person is purchasing this for their everyday driving. Again, it's things like comfort, options, trim levels, capability, and fuel efficiency that keep these things high in demand for consumers. Ford's hybrid technology has been a big seller, and their EcoBoost engines have really supported the growth that they've needed to maintain, or not growth necessarily, but the strength to maintain this position as the number 1 vehicle. Now, the F-Series, just like the others for Ram and GM, they combine it all the way from the F-150 to F-350, perhaps even into the other F-Series, which would be like the F-750, 550, things like that. And the volume of sales as you get into those other models isn't very high, but it is a contributing factor. So anything that falls under that F-Series will fall into this category. So they do aggregate the product so that you see all of them in that sales number. Now, historically, they've been number 1 for so long that that's a selling point. They continue to sell based on that alone, let alone other pieces of their reputation for durability, capability, and function. One of their biggest things is that they constantly fight for class-leading towing, payload, and efficiency, price point. I mean, they're constantly, you'll see these guys selling the trucks really get competitive. So Ford has really pushed hard, and you see them go back and forth. Ram at one point had the highest payload capacity and towing capacity for their 3500. And I want to say it was less than 3 months later that Ford did their update. It was even before Ram. I think you could even buy the new Ram that was announced. Ford already announced improvements to theirs to beat that towing capacity from the 3500 Ram product with the F350. And that's, gooseneck towing is one of the biggest ones. That's where you're going to see some of those really high numbers for towing, but even traditional trailer pull, just from the rear hitch. They've done some great things with their numbers. Now, Ford, as I said, does focus on towing and payload, but fuel efficiency and tech are two big pieces that brought them to where they are. That said, other manufacturers are continuing to keep up, or at least trying to keep up. So we're seeing things like that Hurricane engine that Ram produces for better fuel efficiency and great power. And then we're also seeing technology like the 360 cameras and more advanced touchscreens coming into things like the Chevy Silverado in most recent years, and the Ram pickups that they have very advanced tech that they include in there. So Ford has real competition, and they're still doing well, and there's something to be said about that. So in review, I want to talk about a couple things just to kind of close things off. Is trucks dominated. Commercial sales are huge. They are a big part of these sales. Now, if there weren't commercial sales, I am curious what impact that would have on these. Now, with that said, every vehicle in the top 10, I'm not positive about the Tesla, but I believe so. I have seen these as I've traveled on rental fleets. So even the Camry, the RAV4, the CRV, these are also being purchased at a commercial level in higher volumes for these rental companies. So it's not just the trucks, but the trucks definitely dominate because trucks drive production and development and infrastructure across the United States and Canada. And to some extent overseas as well, but they have perhaps some different options that they lean into. Efficiency was impactful for much of the lineup. So a lot of the CUVs, SUVs, and the sedan that are in there are very fuel efficient relative to those of the past. And that fuel efficiency has maintained relevance with buyers. And I did have a few people kind of talking about the future with higher gas prices potentially having an impact on sales in 2026. And that's a real possibility. So I do see these kind of sticking around. Now, EVs struggle to compete. We're only seeing one EV in the top 10. Now, some of that's historical data, some of it's preference. People don't always want an electric vehicle, but there are a lot of perks to an electric vehicle. So I wouldn't sell it short, and I wouldn't say it's going to drop off the list just yet, because that price point and capability is really there. The range over 300 miles and the rapid charging and the Tesla network really do keep that in a sweet spot for a lot of buyers, especially electric vehicle buyers. Tesla has a really high, as I understand it, return customer rate. So somebody trading in the Model 3 for the Model Y, that's something that they do see, people holding on to that product. Small SUVs and CUVs are the most competitive in this segment, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is we may see some drop out of the top 10 only because those in the top 15 or 20 start fighting for those positions with more advanced technology, newer redesigns, and advancements that we may see in engineering over time. So I did do some comparisons, and I'll put this up on the screen too, of the top 10 best-selling vehicles from 2024 to 2025. Now, you'll notice this. So I've got this little chart. It says that the F-Series in 2024 sold 751 roughly thousand trucks. And in 2025, they improved that number by 78,000. So they saw strong growth from 24 to 25. Why that might be, there may be more infrastructure and development going on, investments in larger organizations. Again, in commercial fleet sales, they may be pushing for some of the things, contracts that they may have that have come up in the last year, but also consumer demand. With trucks becoming more efficient, people are buying them. Chevy Silverado saw a $25,000 unit increase. The RAV4 saw 44,000, and I think the redesign was a big part of that. The CRV, 42,000. Hybrid technology, and again, CUVs and SUVs being popular really help and support that. Now, here's the real kick in the groin, is number 5, the Ram pickup it lost 70,000 units in sales from 24 to 25. Again, I think a big part of that is their design has become more stale. Outside of that, their reliability scores are not as high as their competitors. They do still have a strong consumer base and commercial lineup, but it's obviously not as good as their competitors, and it shows in that huge decline from 24 to 25. Now, the GMC Sierra, on the other hand, saw an improvement of 60,000 units from 24 to 25. The number 7 position of the Toyota Camry in 2024 was taken over by the Chevy Equinox in 25. Now, the redesign, efficiency, and again, CEVs and SUVs being in higher demand than sedans is kind of where that displacement occurs. Number 8, the Model Y, saw a decrease of 76,000 units. So there was a significant decline in Model Y sales, and there are various reasons for that. Some of them political, some of them financial. A big part of it is the incentives being removed from some of the electric vehicles, whether that be on a national level or state level. They did see a decline in that way. The Honda Civic was replaced from the number 9 spot in 2024 by the Toyota Camry. So the Camry lost its position, but if you look, you can see that the Camry improved its sales by over 26,000, roughly 26,000, just under 26, yeah. A significant improvement in sales volume, but they still lost their seat as the 7th best-selling vehicle down to the 9th. And the Civic is completely out of the top 10, but not out of the top 20. The Toyota Tacoma maintains its number 10 position with improvement in sales of 40,000 units. Now, I think a large part of this is due to redesign and efficiency. So Toyota corners that midsize pickup truck market, and it shows here that they made some good improvements. Key takeaways from those and kind of leaning into what the future might look like: trucks still dominate, crossovers are surging, sedans are shrinking, but not dead, and there is volatility in the EV market. And so that's kind of where things have been. And then the future, I think trucks will remain dominant. They have large commercial sales, so their fleet demand is high, and their capability keeps them in the top 10, and honestly in the top 5 spots for the most part, because they're so useful and utilitarian and functional in American infrastructure. And with high consumer demand. Hybrids will keep growing fast, in my opinion. You will see significant sale increases of the RAV4, CR-V, and Camry or other models that offer a hybrid, whether it's overall increases in sales or just an increase in the ratio of hybrid models being sold. You will see that increase. I don't doubt that at all. The big thing with those is, as much as that efficiency is growing, the demand for crossovers or CUVs and small SUVs, that demand will remain high. And part of it is they've been able to maintain efficiency while doing this. The EV growth, there's some stability that can be had from a model being around for a while. It's still strong, the Model Y more in particular. We do see things like Rivian's R2 becoming a factor in what we'll see in EV growth. Because of the affordability and capability of that particular model, and some others that are kind of just on the horizon here. But Tesla is shifting to their robo-taxis. And with that being one of their top priorities, we might see the Model Y drop out of the top 10 because it's become less of a priority for the manufacturer themselves. Redesigns were a big part of what was driving the spikes for all of these models. So the Tacoma, the Equinox, and then just newer refreshes with some of the other product lines maintained or gained in shares because of that. This was my perspective, my opinion of the top 10 best-selling vehicles of 2025, why I think that they did so well, and why I see some of these continuing into the future. But I'm really interested in your perspective. I love reading the comments and kind of taking things from a different angle. What did I miss? What didn't I talk about? What do you think was important that wasn't accounted for in my analysis here? It's impossible for me to get everything in here, so I'm always open to more discussion. And if you do like this video and content like it, please like, subscribe, and share this content so that the channel can grow and I can make more content like this. Thank you guys for your time, and that was just some of the BS.